Hello, this is Mark Frangillo, the Westlaw attorney rep at New England Law Boston. In today's short session, I'm going to give you tips and strategies on how to approach the Safe Places statutes issue for your trial brief. Before we get to the substantive issues, I wanted to just talk about various resources and tools that exist on Westlaw that are going to make you a better researcher, better attorney, should really give you confidence that you're on the right path. Two items I wanted to highlight right now that are going to be essential in building your research trail: history and folders. History on Westlaw is saved for an entire year. Every search you've run, every document you've viewed. You can filter a number of ways, and this could be used as a building block in building your research trail. It really gives you the ability to show your professor the insight in the different approaches you took with respect to collecting relevant information. Remember, you could actually email and download this information. Likewise, folders are going to be really important on Westlaw for multiple reasons. We're going to get into a couple of reasons in today's session, but with respect to building your research trail, once you have foldered something on Westlaw, when you're in the folder itself, the first icon that you'll see allows you to create a research report. The research report provides a summary of each document in your folder, and it gives you an ability, it actually includes by default your annotations, your highlights and notes. So you can actually use this and history to build the trail that you're going to need to pass in as part of your project. Another reason folders are crucial for you: Westlaw, as I said, has various tools that really act as safety nets for you, if you will. These tools answer a number of questions. Among them, one, how do I know that I'm done researching? Two, did I get everything on point with respect to the issue I'm researching? When you are working with folders, folders have a safety net. We actually have 3 safety nets available to you on Westlaw right now that really should make you feel much more confident with respect to legal research. I know legal research is a repetitive exercise. You get better the more you do it, but these 3 tools, these 3 safety nets should really give you a level of confidence you didn't have before. First is research recommendations, and that's something that will pop up when you're in an active session. Basically, research recommendations sees what you're doing in your session based on the documents you're reading, what you're highlighting and adding notes to, the documents you've downloaded and emailed and printed. Westlaw sees this, and it's actually running searches behind the scenes to see if there are some highly relevant documents you might have missed. So when you see research recommendations pop up, take a look at it, because what you'll get are recommendations surrounding cases, statutes, secondary sources, and key numbers that are going to be highly relevant to the issue that you are researching. The second safety net is something that you get once you folder items on Westlaw, and this is yet another reason why folders are so important. When you add items to folders, cases, statutes, regs, secondary sources, Westlaw is looking at the items in your folder and is breaking down each issue and will suggest additional relevant documents. So for example, issue number 1, construction and application of statutes imposing duty regarding safety of buildings. It's actually recommending 21 new documents. 10 cases, 2 statutes, 9 secondary sources. Some of these I might have looked at and disregarded. For example, Gulbranson, which actually, by the way, FYI, is one you really should use for this particular issue. But this is a really nice safety net as well. The third safety net is one that I think is going to really change our approach to legal research. It's something called Quick Check. Quick Check is something you gained access to on January 1st. It's something that's been in the commercial market for 7 months, has been very popular. What Quick Check will do, once you have written a draft or a final version of a brief or memo, it will analyze your arguments along with the cases and citations you used, and it will point out the best cases, briefs, and secondary sources that you might have missed. This is something you should do once you create the draft of your trial brief, as well as before you submit it, because one of the other items that Quick Check will do or run for us, it actually site checks your document. And if any of the cases that you used are no longer good, either have red flags or orange overrule risk markers, which again, remember, an orange marker means your case has been indirectly overruled. Quick Check's going to point that out for you. So this really should become part of the everyday research process once you research and write a draft or final version of a memo or brief. Now, the handout is available to you. I posted it on this twin page where you got this video. And when I saw this particular fact pattern, I know they're talking about negligent design, but really what we're talking about here is a premises liability issue. Is there a duty of care? Was that car hopping the sidewalk foreseeable event? Is there a duty? Can the bank be held liable for the negligent acts of third parties? There are a lot of different sub-issues. I'm not going to tackle all of them, obviously, but what I would do is maybe show you one of them. And the approach you're going to take is going to be the same. I think at this point, since you were given the fact pattern but not given the actual statute on point, I might just run premises liability, duty of care, safe places statute as a global search. Remember, when you do this, Westlaw is going to give you the best document in the first two from all the content in the first 2 columns. The most important starting point, by the way, is always going to be secondary sources. But going forward, what I want you to start doing, I want you to start incorporating briefs and trial court documents into your strategy. These are both, I consider these both to be a form of secondary sources, and they're very good resources. And we'll talk about those in a second. But when you run a search like this, hopefully you took my advice from first semester and you set your default. When you ran a global search like we just did, you set your default to land you in secondary sources. When you got your passwords initially, they were set to land you in the overview. That is a complete waste of time. You should set your password so that it always takes you to secondary sources first. Why? Well, you're going to go to a secondary source and it's going to accomplish 3 objectives for you. 1, you get background on your issue. You get a good foundation, a good starting point. 2, secondary source is going to tell you which of the 3 branches of government governs your action: cases, statutes, regulations, or a combination. 3, every secondary source is going to contain hyperlinks to the primary sources that control. Now, with respect to the types of secondary sources that you get, they exist on a spectrum that has academic on one side, practice-based on another, and there are a lot of hybrids. You really should be looking to obtain practice-based secondary sources from your state. And if you don't know what the practice-based secondary sources are in your state, a couple of things you could do. You could filter by jurisdiction to Wisconsin, and if you did that, you would see that Wisconsin Practice Series is their practice series in that state. Another thing that I like doing, I like limiting my results to texts and treatises as well as ALRs. Texts and treatises would include the practice series from your state, but it also includes really good practice-based horn books and treatises written by experts in this area. So if there is a premises liability treatise that governs or covers some of these topics, you might want to look at that, even though it's not Wisconsin-based. Likewise, I'm an ALR fan. ALR is short for American Law Reports, and you'll see that we have one right here. If you get a good ALR, 80 to 90% of your research is done. I mean, this one that we're looking at right here, construction and application of statutes imposing upon employer or owner general duty of care regarding safety of building, looks really good. The reason I like ALRs, they tend to be lengthy, but every ALR is going to have an itemized list of all the relevant cases on that particular subject. So if obviously you're interested in Wisconsin, looks like we've got about 25 or 30 cases, geez, maybe more, in Wisconsin on this particular issue. Just a ton of resources out there that you can just draw from this particular article. And by the way, if you did want to do what I just did, an easier way of targeting the parts of this 155-page article that discuss cases from Wisconsin, on the left-hand side, this is a new feature they added. I can select Wisconsin, click apply, and now when I click the next arrow, it's only going to take me to that part of those parts of this article where they discuss these Wisconsin cases. So just a quick way of going through that information. Getting back to the first document that I saw, that was from the Wisconsin Practice Series. You pull this particular article up, look, you've got topic and key number that's directly on point with this issue. Premises liability standard of care. I click on that, I could get every case in Wisconsin classified to that minute point of law. You know, that is a tool that you really should be using when looking at cases, and I'll show you that quickly in a few minutes. But read the article. I read this 13-page article. In 10 minutes, I'm going to gain an understanding of this particular area of law. I even have the ability to hyperlink into the relevant controlling statute and cases that govern this particular matter. The other really cool thing about going to a state's practice series, you've got the table of contents listed for you on the left-hand side. All right, so if we're dealing with safe place liability, 15.1, we're in 15.3, I go to 15.1. Here are all the elements. Public building, yes. Owner, was it unsafe? Did the owner have notice of unsafe? What are the defenses? You know, if you're representing the bank, you're going to want to take a look at this and see what are the defenses you could probably raise to a matter like this. But these are, you know, again, this is the approach you're going to take when you're not comfortable with your issue. Go to those secondary sources, get that foundation, make sure you add these items to folders, right? We talked about that first semester. And then once you're done here, let's talk about briefs, pleadings, motions, memos. Where are they? Well, they don't show up when you run a global search. We're only showing you the 5 really most popular content categories. But if you click show more, This gives me an ability to delve into the briefs and trial court documents. I could certainly read the opinions, but if I have the ability to read the plaintiff's brief in support of motion for summary judgment on a similar matter, I'm obviously going to do that because it's going to give me an ability to sort of see the arguments both sides made before the court issued its opinion. And you don't want to obviously copy and use these arguments verbatim in your trial brief this semester, but you could certainly use them as a foundation of where you want to go with your particular arguments. All right, so reading all this content, we know that we're going to have to go into statutes. We know that there are some good cases. We might have even hyperlinked into both right from the secondary sources themselves. Just a couple of other quick tips I wanted to leave you with. When you're working with a statute, the most important item for you to focus on right now are going to be the notes of decisions. Those are going to be vetted cases. Those are cases picked by attorney editors because they actually contained a substantial analysis of this particular statute. And even better, rather than you going through all 687, the editors have created a table of contents so that I can quickly identify the issues that I think are going to be important for me. So if I wanted to get cases that interpreted this particular statute for structural defects, I could do that. I could click that link. If I wanted to get foreseeability, cases that construed this statute with respect to foreseeability, I could do that as well. Notes of decisions are going to be really, really important for you when working with statutes, both currently and in the future. Definitions, I might want to see. Are we fighting over certain terms in these statutes? What is a frequenter? Was this person who used the ATM, could they be considered to be a frequenter? Or were they a trespasser? Do we know that? Again, that's something you always want to be on the lookout for. Has the legislature created a definition section? Now, finally and quickly, cases. Just wanted to show you some of the other tools that you want to use when researching cases. I can use Rosario here or Meagle. Either one works. Both cases are going to be helpful for you for this issue. Another safety net that Westlaw gives you that nobody else provides are these head notes. These head notes written by attorney editors, they're going to paraphrase each issue so you can quickly identify and understand what the issues were. But in addition to containing a summary of each issue, once you land on a good head note, I can get every case in Wisconsin classified to this particular standard of care issue for premises liability. You simply click that number, 272K 1079. That is the topic negligence, subtopic standard established by statute, the standard of care, if you will, established by the Safe Places statute. You click that, and it will collect every case in Wisconsin. We got 114 head notes. Here's the really cool feature. These are sorted in reverse chronological order. You want the seminal case or cases, sort them by most cited. When you do that, Barry has been cited 13 times for that particular issue. You probably want to take a look at Barry. You might want to look at some of these others as well. Kraus, American Exchange Bank, VUS, etc. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I know it was short and quick, but I wanted to keep it short so that I could just sort of point out general strategies. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.